In today's video, we're going to learn just a little bit more about Emmett Till's murder from Ben Hampton. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.
Okay, Ben.
Okay, you ready? Okay, Ben, we were talking before. What was the town? I never been to Money. I'm gonna go down there in a while. But what was Money? What's the town of Money like?
Well, it was like,
You got to say the town of Money was like.
well, it wasn't nothing but a grocery store, they say a gas station, but it was a gas pump, and another little store. It wasn't no size. So.
Let me ask you again. You have to say, the town. You have to say Money.
See, I understand what the interviewer is trying to do. He's trying to get a little bit more out of the person, but I really hate when people interview people like this. You ask a question, they answer it. Sometimes it might come out in a simple form. Not everything is meant to be drawn out, but I do understand what he's trying to do. Let me know your thoughts about that in the comments.
You have to
Yeah,
you have to say it in your sentence when I ask you the question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me ask you again, and you can say a little more than that because
Okay.
I want you to tell me what it was like. So the audience here is watching this film at home, let's say, and most of them are never going to get to Money.
Right.
So what was the town of Money like?
Well, Money, it was a small town with just about 100 people around, and it really wasn't too much to offer, nothing but a grocery store, gas station, and that was it. And we had a school, Money School, that we used to go across the track and come to the store, everything. Then we go back, that's all. It wasn't nothing really special,
Just a little tiny town.
A little town, small.
You want to hang out this frame or should I go?
No, you can do it if you want. So did you know you went in the Bryant store before? What was the store like?
A lot of time.
Say I went into the Bryant and tell me about it.
Well, I went in there during the lunch break, and we used to go in there and buy candy and and pops and stuff. Doing it just every day, we went in there, and really, I didn't think that those people like that,
Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've heard about stories like this where, naturally, I wasn't born back in them days. It's a little bit before my time. So let me know in the comments whether I'm right about anything that I'm about to say. I've heard situations where, people of color or black people will go into those type of stores and our money was not ever good enough to take from our hands. We had to put it on the counter, which is crazy. They had no problem taking the money. For some strange reason, they didn't want that interaction between human to human. Now I don't know for sure if that's true or not. So let me know in the comments your thoughts about that. Have you heard that? And also let me know other stories you possibly have heard.
They treat us, according, but someone keyed them off or something, I guess,
Okay. What was Bryant like? What kind of guy was he?
Well, he was kind of soft-talking guy.
Okay, if you can again put his name in it, you have to say, well, Bryant, because my question's
okay.
gonna be taken out. So my voice, that's why I keep saying that.
Oh, okay.
So you have to say, well, Bryant was.
Oh, okay.
So let me ask you again. What kind of guy was Bryant?
Well, Brian was a kind of soft-talking guy, and he was, on the quiet side. I thought he was on the quiet side. So we never did have too much to, in common, but they ran the store. Him and his brother, they ran the store there, and his brother's wife, she worked in the store, and they was poor people, and they worked in the field themselves. They drove tractor for themselves. They had a little plantation, probably about 100 acres or something, and they had to work it themselves,
So they weren't rich white people?
No, they're real poor,
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, the only something that they really had is going for them, a little plantation, they had to raise their own, wherever, cotton or something, and they had a store in, like I say, a small town, so they wasn't making too much money off the store, you know. So, you know, they wasn't.
Did you ever see the woman that supposedly he whistled at, Bryant's wife? Do you remember
Yes,
her?
I did. I used to see her every day. She was working in there. Uh, uh, she be working. Most time he wasn't there. Him and his brother-in-law, you know, they wasn't there. So she be running the store all the time.
What was she like?
Uh, well, she was. You could tell, you know, she was a little, you know, she didn't want to, you know, you go in the store or something, and she stand back and, you know, you order something, she give it to you, and that was it, you know. She, you know, didn't want you to touch your hand, you know, she just give it to you, you know, move her hand. But at that time, we was kids, we didn't pay that no mind, you know.
And look at that. It just came right out. Now, I promise you I didn't see this video beforehand. But I got my question answered right there. You know, our money was good enough to be taken, but the human to human interaction was a no. Now, I can understand other types of human to human interaction. I mean, especially when she's a married woman or a woman, period. But when it comes to a transaction within buying, selling things, I don't see the problem with that. Let me know in the comments. Why do you think that was a problem? Did they think that the color of the skin was gonna come off? Did they think it was contagious? I mean, I understand you can't tell me exactly what the person was thinking. That's why I'm wondering what is the possibilities of what you think they was thinking.
Let me ask you to say that again because I think we had a noise, you know, outside, and I'm not sure that it really, we really got to hear it. And that was good, you know. So, tell me again, what type of woman was Mrs. Bryant? And if you could say Mrs. Bryant in
Mrs. Bryant, she was so poor, you know, she was pretty decent for as I'm concerned because, you know, we went in there to buy candy and that's all, you know. And we would go in there and we buy candy and pops and stuff. And when we bought what we wanted, we get out of the store, you know. So we didn't have no problem with her. But, you know, she, you could tell that now I can understand, you know, she didn't want to be bothered, you know, too much, you know. She was only trying to make money, that's all. And when you buy something, you know, she dropped the money and hands, you never touch her hand, nothing, you know. So I'm pretty sure she was prejudiced, yeah.
she'd never touch your hand?
No, she never would allow you to touch her hand.
Was that common? What were white folks like back there in Mississippi? What were they like?
Well, I can't say all of them white were like, you know, because while we were living there, this guy, he was something like, and he was born rich, you know, and he was something like us. We go to his house, and he won't, you know, go in the front door. We didn't able to go in there, but I guess because we were kids or something, you know, we go visit him when after we left there. We used to go back down south, and if we didn't go to see him, you know, he had, you know, tell my brother. I had a brother living down there. Then he tell, you know, about we should have came and see him, you know, and all this stuff, you know. Not all white people was the same down there.
And see, and that's the reason why I can never go with the same excuse that I hear most European people say when they say stuff like, "Oh, well, those were part of the times." No, no. He just said it. Not all European people were the exact same way. Even during slavery times, you know, you had your bad set of people, but remember, a lot of those slaves that were escaping had European people right there helping them get away. So there's no such thing as, you know, it was the times. That's just an excuse that you want to use to try to justify the badness or the evilness of those people.
And I guess it's the same way here, you know. Everybody ain't alike, you know. Same way with black people, you know. We some people, you know, some black I wouldn't want to live next door to, and you know, so that's where he went, you know.
One of the things that we want people to understand who see this film
Yeah.
that people I think sometimes don't understand is that in a lot of ways it seems that black people, the similarity between the way black people lived. Because again, people here in the North and now
Right.
think that there's always. But talk about, was there the same as the way black people and poor white people live?
Well, they lived black and white. If they're poor, they live almost the same thing. Only some by the poor white people, they still, they thought they were above us, but they were living the same way amongst the rich white people. They was just like we was, But when they get out around them, they thought they was more than we was, and those why the most the hate came from. The rich white people, we didn't have no problem down there. But the poor white people, I guess they were mad because the rich white people treated them, the way they did, and so they take out on the black people, so. And it's really, it's almost same here, it's something like a gang thing with the Ku Klux Klan and thing. It was the only thing by it was white on black then,
Why you think they never actually saw what was really going on? You have the rich elites that was European treating the poor Europeans the exact same way the poor Europeans would treat the poor black folks. And yet it never dawned on them that they were the exact same. They were seen as the exact same. I know you all caught that like I did. Let me know your thoughts about that in the comments.
they get together, wouldn't no one face you. If just the same way, when Emmy, it wasn't no one person came and got a 14-year-old kid,
I'll ask you about Emmett Till later,
okay.
so I don't want to jump ahead. So let me just get this again. You having a problem over there?
Just want to get a level.
Or
Okay.
you're recording or what?
I'm okay.
All right.
Okay. So that the tell me again. So there was a sameness between black people and poor whites. Tell me that.
Well, like I say, it's the black and the white. If they're poor, they all the same down there. Only one difference, between us, there's a difference, between black and white people, because of the poor white people always feel like they were more than we were, and they could be out there working the same, same place we working at, but once they leave and go home, they different, so that's why it was a problem, They was really the one we had a problem with, the poor white people.
One of the things that really drove them crazy was if you mess with their women.
Right, they never did. Like that. Matter of fact, they don't like it now. They they go along with you, but if they can go with your women's.
Okay, we want to talk about the past.
Okay.
So keep it in the past.
Yeah, okay.
Because this is a story in the past. So so talk to me about that. One of the things that would get you in trouble. One of the things that they really didn't like was you messing with their women.
They didn't like once when I was coming up, we used to play with white kids, and once they get, I guess about 10 years old, the girls, they stop us from playing with them. And when they get to be about, I guess, 15 or 16, they go to, if they tell you something about their daughter or something, they always address Mrs. So-and-so, let's make you, rely, you got to say it, So they stop you from playing with them when you get a certain age, We did, but we play, I played with them long as they're small, but when they go growing up, you got to stay away from them,
Mm-hmm. What would happen if you mess with a white woman?
Well, if you mess with a white woman, most time they'll find some way to get rid of you. They get together, like I say, they wouldn't face you one-on-one. They get together and I guess have a meeting, and some people say used to have a meeting, and they find some way to get rid of you. You couldn't be caught by yourself, you know. And I knew a guy down in my hometown. He was a chauffeur for this white guy, you know, and he was started messing around with his wife, you know. This guy had him to drive him all the way to California, and he acted like he forgot him, and he drove himself back to leave him down there, you know, get rid of. He didn't want to, I guess, hurt him or something, so he left him down there, and his wife demanded him to go back and get him. So a lot of people got together and told this guy, you know, it's time for him to leave, you know, because he tried to get rid of him, you know, in a decent way, you know. So this guy came here, and last time I heard, you know, that was in about 51, something like that.
Now, I know he just said that the guy drove him to California, drove the man to California and just abandoned him. My question to you is, given the times, do you honestly think that this European man drove him to California and just abandoned him, even though this black man was messing with the European man's wife? I mean, I'm going by today's standards. I know what people would do today that if you get caught with another man's wife. I mean, sometimes people get raged up and do all sorts of things, but abandon you? I don't know. That's a new one right there.
Came here, I never heard from him no more, you know.
Why do you think that in the South, in Mississippi, you know, back there at that time, there was they were so hot, so crazy about you you messing with their women or whistling at their women or talking to their women? What was the problem?
Well, to my opinion, you know, most people say, you know, but the black people's best lover, you know, and that's always, you know, I guess they thought that, you know, it probably ran in their mind that we was a better lover than they was, you know, because all the poor white people feel like at that time it's working. You know, they'd go out there and work, they work 7 days a week, you know, to take care of their family. They wouldn't think about no, you know, mixing with their wife or kids or something. They would just work, you know, that's all they want. So I guess they're afraid of black, you know, somewhere in there you go mixing with a wife, you know, he take away, you know.
Mm-hmm. You were down there, and you say your father picked cotton, your brother picked cotton. Talk about picking cotton. Was that hard work, hot work? What kind of work was picking cotton?
Well, it was hard work for me, you know, to just look at it, you know. But I know, you know, some people. My brother used to go out there and pick 500 and 600 pounds a day, you know. He used to pick so much cotton and show you how they was down there. He used to pick so much cotton there, and really wasn't paying that much. He picked 500 pounds cotton a day, so he would make too much money. The white man, he put him on one of the tractors just to haul cotton, you know, keep him from making the money. And then he paying $5 a day, you know. So, you know, this was a problem, you know, with them. They didn't want to see you make no money, you know. And really, at that time, it wasn't no money, you know. He picked 500 pounds a day. It wasn't, you know, sometimes $3, $100 or something, you know. But that was too much for you to run a week, too much money for you, you know.
So that even if you picked a lot of cotton, and they were making money off the cotton, they still didn't
want you to make the money you were making, you know, off of them, you know. They rather put you doing something else, you know. So.
Okay. And you came to Chicago. You left Mississippi. Huh?
Yes, I did. I left her after the Emmett Till thing.
Talk about that a little bit. Give me more of a complete story. So you left after?
I left in 55, and I left because of like I said, I was brainwashed to come up here, and I thought people living here, you know, was rich, you know. They come down there with $400 or $500 in their pocket and new car. And I thought, they was living good, Come to find out, they was living just like we were, But it wasn't the reason that I left because of Emmett Till, I didn't leave because of that coach. We didn't have no problem. Which all black people had problems, don't get me wrong. But my family person, we didn't, because if you was a man down there, you stand up for your right and things. They fear you. They say you crazy. They tell you do something, you do it if you want, or tell them you weren't gonna do what you weren't gonna do. Then they for something they wouldn't say you were bad. They say he crazy. That nigga crazy. Don't bother him. So that's the worry they got from my family. They thought my father was crazy because he demanding on them respecting us.
You were 16, almost the same age as Emmett Till. Do you remember what you thought and what you felt when you first heard about his murder?
Well, I was confused at that time, because I couldn't figure out why they do it, why they did it, and I never would have thought. And like I said, I knew those Marlon and Brian. I thought well enough to think they wouldn't do that, But I guess by them, and there was a lot of them, got together on there. I guess one wanted to prove that how big a man he was, and that's why they did, They say the reason they did it, they went to the house, Mr. Wright's house, after he went in the store, and he asked her for some candy, and his wife waited on him. So when she walked up there and gave him the candy, he got her hand like that, kind of squared, she snatched her hand back. When she snatched her hand back, she walked away, he whistled, he said, and they called that a wolf whistle. So that evening when they came off of work, like I said, they were poor people, they came out the field working, she told them what happened.
That whistle always got me. I learned about it in school, and I always wondered, why would a young man, a little 14-year-old, whistle at a grown woman? And I couldn't, for the life of me, figure that out until on my first channel, which is See My Strength. I have a Emmett Till video now, which, if you know, there's Emmett Till's mother. And even though the interview itself, the interviewer was horrible, but she broke it down about the whole whistle thing. He had a disability, and the best way for him to get back to reality was to whistle. She taught him to whistle. But trust me, go and watch that video. It would definitely change your mind, because it was so much stuff she gave in that interview that it opened my eyes for real.
So now they didn't know who Emmett was, and they asked about 3 or 4 black people be sitting around the store, drinking pop all the time, old people, something like retired, And they asked one of the guys who was the black kid, a new black kid in the neighborhood. And so he told them it was Mr. Wright's grandson. He was down there visiting his grandfather. So that night, the way I understood it, I talked to the seminary. They came to the door around about 9 o'clock, about 2 carloads of white, 2 or 3 carloads of white. And they came to the door and asked Mr. Wright, so do you have a grandson here from Chicago? He said, yeah. So he said, we would like to talk to him, When he called him, the boy went to bed, he ain't pajamas. He called him to the door, like I say, that never happened down there, something like, he didn't know that gonna happen, And he called him to the door. When he got to the door, they grabbed him and rushed him to the car and taken off, And after they take him out, they take him down there on Tallahatchie River bank. They had a place down there. I guess that's why they were meeting there all the time, because they found out, seeing why people had been sitting around afterward, and they looked in the boy's wallet and saw a white girl picture. Then that's where they know that he liked the white, So that's where they say they got mad because they know he liked the white sluts or something. That's what they call the girl. So he had a white slut picture in their pocket. And they got mad. They heated up some iron and stuck it in his eyes and castrated him and just mess him. After they did that, they throw him in the river in running water. Tallahatchie River was running water. So Hampton wouldn't about know what happened, but my brother, that night when they came through, he heard somebody hollering, and he came in there and told my mother that he heard somebody hollering, and Mr. Bryan and the truck then went through. But we didn't, my mother didn't pay nothing to mind. They didn't know what happened, So the next day or so, that boy came up missing, And then they came back down there 3 days later. So I guess when people started talking, I guess they're going to get rid of them because they didn't want them to talk, and tell what happened. They came back down 3 days later, and the way in the country, I don't know why you live in the country, but houses about sometimes about a half a mile apart, And they had to went to their friend's house up there I'd say about 5 or 6 blocks from the house. And they came back down about 5 or 6 carloads, and they peeped in one and trying to see after they found wasn't nobody there, they left, And they people got together and gave them money. They left the same next day, Because I guess they'd come back to do something to them, Keep them from talking,
Let me ask you another question, too. One of the things that I talked to this white guy from down there, and he said that that Bryant probably felt like he had to do something because it got around that that this boy had whistled at his wife. You know what I mean?
Right.
That do you think so? I mean, did Bryant have to? Did Bryant? Was that how the white people felt that now he had to do something?
Right. Well, that's where, like I say, about them being poor, they figured like he had to do something to make a name for himself, and let people know it wasn't going to continue happening, So they going to try to break it up right away, So that's why I guess he did what he did, So,
Mm-hmm. What would have happened? What would the white people have said if he didn't do anything?
Well, a lot of the poor white people, they was probably encouraging him to do something, but the rich white people didn't like it, because it make a bad name on money, down there. They didn't like it at all, But it's a funny thing about white on white. They don't go against one another. They won't come out, and say, but they didn't like it, because, like I say, they didn't want the name having that happen in Money, Mississippi,
What did you saw? Let's do something different.
Okay.
You saw Mrs. Bryant, the woman in the store. Describe her to me. What she looked like?
Well, she was a nice looking lady. I have to face back. She was a nice looking lady, and she about I guess about 100 and maybe from 115 to 125, and she's well built, long brown hair, She was a nice looking lady, So I guess that's what made him think that somebody will get her,
Give me a different shot.
Sure.
Just do that again for me and just say Mrs. Bryant was
Okay.
a nice. So tell me again. Describe Mrs. Bryant to me.
Mrs. Bryant, she was a nice looking lady, She well built, and she I had her, I guess from 110 to 125. So she, as far as I'm concerned, she was a beautiful young lady,
Did they make their money off black people in that store? Who went to that store?
Black people.
Okay,
Black
if you could
people
just
went.
say, I'm sorry. It was my fault. I shouldn't interrupt you.
Okay.
Just say black people went to that store. Go ahead. Who went to the store?
Most 98% of the people who went to the store was black people. Who went to the Bryan store was black people, and they made it wasn't too much money going on around there, but the money they did make, it was all black people.
Was that something that was typical in the South? I mean,
Right. That's why most of the white people had business. 80% were black, because the white people, they wouldn't go there. They go down to Greenwood, the big cities, kind of large city, to shop. They wouldn't even shop in those stores,
Because I've seen pictures, and there were a lot of those little stores. That was a common thing.
Oh yeah. That's why like I say, everybody had get a hold of a little money. They try to open up in the neighborhood, because black people didn't have too much business at that time. I knew one black guy had a little store, but inside the house, something like one of those. So.
And black people had to go. Black people couldn't really feel comfortable in the store in Greenwood, right? They had to go to these little stores.
Right, they feel comfortable in the store in Greenwood, because Greenwood was a little bigger city, So a lot of people, for his clothes and things, that's why we went to shop at. My mother and used to go to Greenwood.
So you had seen Roy Bryant and his brother-in-law Milam. What they look like? Describe them to me, Bryant and Milam. What were they like?
Well, like I said, they was at that time they was clean cut guys, and they wasn't overweight, something like that. It was not, but like I say, they never did have too much to say to people, because they didn't deal around with it. They stay away from it. Only time you talk to them or something, they might be around the store, and then they talk to you or something like that. I guess to make business, that's why they did that,
Let me ask you again to say something about them, and just put their names in it for me, Bryant and Milam. And because Milam was a big guy. Well, I mean, he was not no little. Bryant looks like he was a pretty big man.
Well, he
you
was.
Say Milam.
Milam was a kind of stocker build guy, and they were. For as I'm concerned, they at that time, they pretty nice guy. They sit around, they come around the store, they talk to you, but they really changed, something happened, behind that,
Again, what did you think when you heard about Emmett Till being killed? I mean, as a 16-year-old, do you think it's time to go? Did you think, whoa, what did you think?
Well, like I say, I didn't think anything about time to go, because, like I say, it wasn't no fear in me by living down there, because I knew why I was there. I knew why I had to go. I knew where I was supposed to go, and I knew what I was supposed to do. So I stayed away from the white most time. Like I say, when we were growing up, we play around with them. When they go get some side, then we went off, and stay around class, So as long as you stay in your class, we didn't have no problem,
Okay, let's cut.
Sure.
You want to see what that is? There were a couple of black people who were said to be involved in help clean up after they killed Emmett Till. Right, there were a couple of people who witnesses said they saw with Milam and Bryant. Well, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, you go ahead and finish because I wrong.
No, you go ahead. My question was.
Well, it's a few blacks that came forward. Like I say, after they started questioning people. I was gone, so I don't know who they questioned. But I know on one thing, I know one guy that he the one was told who which he didn't know that gonna happen. He the one told about who the boy was and who his grandfather was.
Let me know in the comments, what do you think happened to those black people that stepped up and pointed out the Bryant family?
So that's why they went on. They went on what he said. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, my question was going to be though, if black people help clean up the blood, right? It help do that.
Yeah.
You're from down there. You lived down there till you were 16, right?
Mm-hmm.
Make us understand, why a black person would do that.
A white person, man.
Well, no, why a black person would help them clean up,
Well, you find I guess every race you find people weak, or else you find people that they feel sorry for people, and things like. But now this is where I feel about the whole thing, A guy asked me. I was talking to a guy down to the lounge, He asked me about hate, Say, did I hate white people? I told him like this, I don't hate no race. I'm way I feel, if you do something to me, I dislike you. Well, I don't dislike your race, And that's why I feel. I'm glad I guess I was raised like that, because like I deal with a lot of.
Okay. I'm sorry. We can hear you all. One thing I wanted to just ask you to do, because one of the things I think is that we want to also give a sense of is that the South, Mississippi, is really beautiful. In some ways, very, just looks pretty. Cotton nothing looks pretty as cotton when you see it.
Right.
Talk about how pretty cotton looks.
Well, it's really it's beautiful just to ride along the highways, and see it, especially with the cotton, it's ready, to bloom now, it's ready to be picked or something, all the white cotton you see, miles and miles, and just white cotton, everything. And it's improved down there now because people don't use hands to pick it, like they used to. They use tractors, machines, and things like that. People don't have to, like I said, I have people in the South now, they don't work in the field like they use the machines and things, and there's a lot of jobs down there now. Different factories moving down there, and you go down there, right away. If you interested in working, you have to get a job. But
Okay.
now the South have changed.
Okay, hold on, because let's cut. The one we got that.
And Mike said, speak.
My stomach. Talk about. Sorry. Are we rolling?
Yes, we're rolling.
I wanted you to talk about.
Speak.
Again, tell me how the beauty. How does cotton look when it's growing?
Well, it's beautiful, It's beautiful when it first started, growing, and once it gets ready, for it to be picked, you could be riding along the highways and things and see thousands people, out there working in the fields, and it really, like I say, it looked good to me, because I never had to do it. I don't know how hard it was, so it really looked beautiful,
Just a little bit more on the store, the store, Brian's store.
Mm-hmm.
If you can, just kind of picture in your mind and give me a picture of what did the store look like?
The store is a small store. It was something like a house, or long, one they call it a shotgun house. Something I put it that way, and it was this long, kind of long. It wasn't like these stores now, And they had, most they had is something like candy and pops and things. They didn't have no meats too much in there, It's just something like now people call it candy store, So that's the only thing they had. It wasn't no big business, Like I say, it wasn't no big business. And
Okay. Hold on one second. Other thing I always thought is and you could tell me because you were from down there. Mo's right. His grandfather got up in the court and pointed at those white men and stuff. How much courage did that take to get up in the court and point out those white men?
Well, it took a whole lot of courage. I guess he was 65 years old anyway, so I guess he felt like it's just him and it really wasn't worth holding us back, because he felt like his days, anyway. So he had to tell the truth, tell what he thought, true anyway. So it was a whole lot of courage for him to do that amongst all them whites down there.
I understand it's like the first time that any black man had ever really done that in open court. Just got up and pointed out the white man, and said, those are the guys that did it, right?
Well, it's the first time, as far as I'm concerned, that it happened, But I guess, he just ready to, if you take that, that's where it's going to take you. It was a good point, it's brought out a whole lot in there.
What do you mean?
Well, it's brought out a lot of things that had been going on in the cover. People been doing things, the white been doing things, and people were scared to come out, and say it, So a lot of black wouldn't, even the young people wouldn't have got up there and said that,
So it took courage.
Right.
Okay, let's cut.
Speak.
Okay. So what happened to the store after?
Well, the store Brian had, people stopped trading with them, and they moved about 100 miles from there. And they grow beers and wore sunglasses and things. Thought people wouldn't recognize who they was, but people started trading with them. Once they found out who it was, they stopped there, And they went to about 2 or 3 places down there and did the same thing, People found out, and they really, the law didn't do just, but the peoples got behind me, and they I heard from my people, were telling me about, they acted like they were going crazy, I think they did, crack up or something, or kill themselves or something, I don't know. I never did hear.
Let me ask you that one more time, because I think that, when you said trading with them, it kind of got muddled, people, So tell me again, again, we can get some energy up. We're almost done. What happened, to the store afterwards?
Well, they had to close it, because.
I said, if you say that, we got to say the store.
Brian, they closed Brian and store because they moved to another city about 100 miles from there, and like I said, it was a small store where they wasn't doing too much business nowhere. But when they moved to another place, they started doing business, and people found out who it was, and they stopped trading with them because 90% of the people was black. Like I say, it was black, and people found out, and they stopped trading with it and just stop, and this just ran them out, completely out of business. They had to sell the little farm they had, try to stay out of jail, the law didn't put them in jail or nothing, but they punished them, I think they paid to come up with a lot of money, to stay out of jail.
I want to ask you another question again. What did black people think about Emmett whistling? Did black people think he was crazy?
Well, most black people I talked to, they didn't think it was, it really was no crime, enough to be killed by, because we've been doing this. Well, you see a lady out there now, you might do that, You see a lady and say, well, that is not enough to kill somebody about. So that's, people didn't think they were right, It's black people didn't.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we're good. Anybody? Going once, going twice?
Should we do
room tone?
Okay,
we just need quiet for about 30 seconds.
Ben Hampton shared a lot of things about the Emmett Till murder that honestly we didn't know about, as well as the times, the era. Um, and hopefully we learned a little something. If you caught the gemstones I left in this video, I hope they gave you something to think about. Let me know what stood out to you. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.